Welcome to Los Olivos Wine Merchant and Cafe, where you not only get to taste the Central Coast, but you also get to meet the winemaker. And today we have Lane Tanner with
Hi.
Lumen.
Yes.
Welcome, Lane.
Thank you.
Good to have you.
Good being here. It's kind of cold out. I'm glad we're inside.
Absolutely. And so we always start out with, this question about if you had one word to describe your winemaking style, what would it be?
For me, it would be feminine.
Feminine.
Yeah, that's been my course throughout my whole job life was femininity.
Okay, and what do you mean by feminine wines?
Well, I try to make gentle, elegant wines that are on the more softer side, and I feel those are all feminine qualities.
Elegant as opposed to powerful.
Exactly. Those are I consider manly. Tannic, high alcohol, all of those are manly things.
Right, so lower alcohol,
yeah.
more elegant, soft,
Exactly.
Yeah. Perfect. So you've been making wine in Santa Barbara County forever.
It has been forever.
You're one of the first women winemakers with their own label here in Santa Barbara County, one of the pioneers of making wine in Santa Barbara County. And I know when I opened this restaurant 25 years ago, you already had your label and you were out there, and it was Lane Tanner. You were a well-known name, and now you're making wines for Lumen. And so tell me about your journey, about how you started and what it was like back then, and how you got to this point today.
Well, I started my wine career in 1980. Before that, well, way back in college, I had a degree in chemistry and almost a secondary degree in microbiology. So that was kind of a good start. I never considered wine as even an idea in my brain. I wanted to be a hardcore chemist. That's really what I wanted to do. I ended up, though, instead of doing hardcore chemistry, I fell into air and water pollution. I did remote field op all over the United States. I worked in the North Slope. I worked in work camps out of Juneau on small islands. I mean, I got some fun places to go, but ultimately, it wasn't what I wanted to do, and I didn't have any home life. I didn't have any boyfriends. I didn't have any real friends because I always was on the road. So I quit that job, went to Northern California, where I'm from, a small town called Kelseyville, and was just hanging out. Decided I'd hang out there for the summer, then go to San Francisco and finally get a real chemistry job. That was my life thought. Things change.
Yeah, life gets in the way.
Never tell the fates what you want, because it won't happen.
Right.
So I, one day the phone rings at my mom's house, and I answer. It's a local winery looking for someone to help them bottle. So my mom wasn't home. I said, sure, I'll do it. Then while I was bottling, they found out I was a chemist. So they said, well, while you're in town, can you do some chemistry? And I was like, give me the book. Of course I can. So I'm in there waiting for the book. I'm at 8 o'clock in the morning, sitting there having no clue, because I didn't even drink wine at this point. Every now and then I would drink some Parducci Petite Syrah that was just like horribly staining, but that was it. And so this guy comes in, the winemaker, his name was Bill Pease, and he had this guy with him that was his consultant. Now, I didn't know it was the consultant at the time. I look at this guy, he's about my height, so about 5'2", older gentleman, one big old bushy eyebrow. And I'm introduced to him as the new enologist. And I'm like, I wonder what that word means. I mean, this is in my brain, of course.
Wow.
Ologist, I knew that, but enologist, not a clue. And this gentleman happened to be a man named Andrei Chelachev. So Andrei Chelachev, the godfather of the California wine industry.
Absolutely.
Literally,
yeah.
I get chills just thinking of this.
No kidding.
But I didn't know who he was. And the nice thing about Andrei, okay, give me your hand. If you're the girl and I'm the guy, Andrei would always do this. He would take your hand, not to shake it. He would always put it over, and then he'd go like this. As though we were going to kiss it. And this was, I found out much later on, the more I was around, and this is a way you could see how much Andrei really liked somebody, because if he really liked you, he would actually kiss your hand. And if he didn't, he would air kiss it. But this guy was so
Only the
cool.
females, or
only the females, yeah.
Only female,
yeah.
okay.
He's a white Russian, so he grew up, his sister was actually a Tsarina.
Wow.
So, I mean, this guy, he had to flee during the Bolshevik Revolution.
Right.
It was just amazing.
And came to the United States and created,
Well, first
was
he
one
went,
of the,
he went to
one of the pioneers of
France,
the
and
wine industry in California. Yeah.
So just an incredible guy. So he says to Bill, well, let's have Lane taste with us. And I'm thinking, oh, great, I don't know how do I taste wine, I don't know, but I'm thinking I'm in. So we go to this table, and these guys are like, first off, they're sniffing, and I'm sniffing, you know, I can follow what they're doing. And then they start swirling, and swirling, if you've never swirled before in your life, you know, I always swirl with my dominant hand, my right. But here, if you want to see what it's like to swirl for the first time, try swirling with your other hand. Now, I'm a professional, I can do it
really
both
tough,
ways.
yeah.
But that's kind of what I was up against.
Yeah.
Then, okay, then they put it in their mouth and do a little, you know, I could do that pretty good, so that's
Right.
no problem. And then, though, they spit into spittoons down on the ground. And I'm just like looking around, what am I supposed to do? Andre hands me a coffee cup. And women, you know, especially back then, women were not really known for manly kind of things. And so I couldn't even really spit in the cup. I just had to kind of drool into it. So
Men spit, women drool in the cup. Yeah.
we're just not known for our spitting techniques. So I go through this, and then Andre starts quizzing me, like, well, Lane, you know, what do you smell? What do you taste? Can you, you know, he's kind of edging me on, leading me, so I was not totally dumb about it. But I'd always, turns out, had this incredible sense of smell. I'd never, up until that exact moment, though, thought it was anything but a horrible, horrible situation. I'm the one that goes into Grandma's house and smells something really off, where everybody else says, oh, Grandma, how you doing? I'm thinking, somebody's got to look in that refrigerator because it's bad. So finally, I'm being complimented on this odd thing that I've always had. And it's like, well, that's cool. And then he starts talking about, well, Lane, you know, now that you're doing this, you know, once a month you have to do this, and maybe once a week this. And I'm looking over at Bill, you know, like, give me a clue here. What am I supposed to say to this guy? I'm just here for the day. But I just kept going, And so they leave for lunch. They put me back in the lab. I'm kind of loaded at this point. And I just wait. And then finally Bill Pease comes back and he goes, Lane, is there any way that you could, like, stay and be our enologist, because Andre really likes you. so from 8 o'clock in the morning
That's a great
to
compliment from
noontime,
Andre, right?
I went from not even having an idea what an enologist was to being one.
Right.
Really.
Yeah.
It was amazing. So that's how I got in the wine industry.
Yeah.
4 hours.
Wow, what a story.
But here's the funnest thing is, as I got more into working in the industry, I realized, with my background in chemistry and with all my remote side stuff, which was basically you had to work with electrical, plumbing, anything with baling wire and duct tape, you know, you had to be able to break things apart in the middle of nowhere and put them back together. I was meant for this job. It worked perfectly.
There's always something going wrong in the winery that you have to fix,
exactly,
right?
Yeah. So I could do that. Plus, you know, I could smell, I could taste with my chemistry. I could analyze. So this job was made for me. I unfortunately was not really happy in the wine industry, though, to begin with. It just wasn't what I wanted to do. I didn't pick it. You know, it's like I wanted to pick something
You
finally.
just landed there.
I landed there, but Andre kept saying to me, Lane, trust me, this is a really good job for you. And he's the one that kept me in it to the point where when I finally, about 3 years into it, I finally thought, you know, this really is fun. But it took me a few years to really enjoy it.
How long did you have this relationship with Andre? That's amazing that you were able to.
Only about 3 years. When I was at Canoctai, that's where I started. When I was at Canoctai, which is now Jet Steele's winery, he was there. He was the enologist, and he helped me get the job at Firestone when Tony Austin left. Started Austin Cellars and Ellison Green, who really was the very first winemaker in this county, became winemaker. That's when that happened to her. So that happened in 1980. And then, of course, the enology job was open. So I interviewed for the enology job twice and then ended up getting the job. So that's what got me down here.
And then eventually you started your own label, Lane Tanner.
I did.
Which was, what year did you do that? How long did that
Well,
last?
in between 1980, in 81 and a half, I got tired of Firestone and I started hanging out with Ken Brown. And Ken was the winemaker at Zaca Mesa. So he said, well, Lynn, if you're not having fun at Firestone, come be my enologist at Zaca Mesa. And so I was like, oh, what the heck? And that's really when I started having fun. But unfortunately, in that move, that's when I no longer got to work directly with Andre. I still saw him sometimes, but not, you know, the continuous going out to lunch with them, really interacting with them. And I did miss that part. But working with Ken was much more fun. Then in '84, Ken started Byron Winery. And right at that time, I'd been hanging out with Frank Ostini, who was co-owner of the Hitching Post in Casmelia.
Right.
And he wanted to have a wine made exclusively for his restaurant, not just bulk wine, but something made right for him. So in 1984, I started LR Consultants and made wine specifically for the Hitching Post, which put me in as the first independent female winemaker of Santa Barbara County. Yes.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So then in '84, I did that for a few years. Finally, Frank realized he could do it himself, and I think he wanted to do that all along. It was just he wasn't sure of himself to begin with. So in '89, we just split the barrels. I started laying Tanner, and he kept with the Hitching Post. Quite honestly, if you look at some of those Hitching Post labels today, there's still even some of the Exacto cuts that I made originally for that label. It's hysterical. If we had one, I could show you. But it's kind of like, I like seeing that.
Fantastic. So now you're with Lumen,
I am.
and you're making wines with them, and we have a Grenache Blanc here, we have a Pinot Noir, and we have a Grenache that you make. So tell us a little bit about Lumen and the wines that you're making here. Let's start off with the Grenache Blanc. Tell us a little bit about that. Yeah.
Well, let's go back to that one word, femininity.
Yeah.
Throughout my Lane Tanner years, which were '89 through '09, 20 years, I continuously worked at the things that we just talked about, continuously trying to do gentle elegance. The Grenache Blanc is what I call my most frivolous wine. This is not the wine you have to think about, or this is not the wine that a bunch of people are going to sit around, and a bunch of Psalms are going to sit around and go, oh, that is so deep. This is a wine that you just enjoy. You get home after work, you have some, you do your callbacks, you check your emails, you turn around, the bottle's empty, not a shock.
Yeah, I call these kind of wines, wines that you cook with, or wines that you hang out in the afternoon with some friends and have lunch with, and it's wonderful, easy to drink, nice flavor, tastes great, and it's not going to overpower you. It's elegant.
Totally dry,
nice.
but really fruity.
Yeah.
So those people that say, oh, I'd rather have a sweet wine. This is great for them.
Right.
And
they think it's sweet, but it's not, because it's got that fruitiness without having the sugar in there.
And a little bit of glycerol so that it has that round mouthfeel like you would if you did have sugar in there.
Right.
But yeah, nice clean finish. Won't bog you down.
Yeah, no.
You can still go right to that next wine.
Absolutely. You can keep on cooking with it.
Exactly.
Good.
Yeah.
So, and then the next wine we have is your Pinot Noir.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, Pinot Noir is what I'm known for. Pinot Noir, I've made nothing but Pinot Noir from '89, for 16 years. 16 years I was the only winemaker in Santa Barbara County that made only one wine.
And that's before Sideways, right?
Before
Pinot Noir was the thing to do.
Yeah.
You were making Pinot Noir when everybody else probably didn't know what Pinot Noir was. So
it was
a few other people were doing it,
yeah.
but you were doing it. And
I was doing it exclusively, and it's because there's nothing like Pinot Noir in the world. All other wines for me, they're just shy about that much, Pinot Noir, I will drink other wines, and always people are like, well, have this, and I'll always have a little sip or maybe a glass, and then it's like, okay, now do I get Pinot? Because Pinot...
I'll drink anything to get my Pinot, right?
Exactly, pretty much. Pinot, there's just something... There's almost a sensuality to Pinot, and I think this goes back to femininity. I don't think masculine wines, you can call them sensual, but this wine is sensual. There's a pheromonal thing almost that happens with Pinots when you don't have a lot of oak on them, and that's one of the things that I do is make sure I don't have a lot of oak on my wines because I really love the fruit flavors. But the pheromonal things about Pinot are just amazing.
The nose in Pinot Noir is very unique. I mean, when you smell Pinot Noir, you go, oh yeah, that's Pinot Noir. They have a certain characteristic aroma to them.
Definitely. And also the mouth on a Pinot, there should be a certain silkiness. You should have some silkiness. Other people may call it sometimes a velvetiness, but there's a mouthfeel. It's low tannins. Pinot Noir is always very low in tannins. So it is just automatically gentle and elegant. A lot of guys like to beef it up by, picking it really ripe and then putting too much oak on it and all this stuff. But that's so sad because it's such a beautiful wine by So,
Yeah.
and
It
this
is.
is all Sierra Madre. Well, not all Sierra Madre, but it's all Santa Maria Valley. Santa Maria Valley is my chosen area in the world. Santa Maria Valley fruit for me has everything I want out of a Pinot.
Yeah.
It's a bright, crunchy red fruits, the strawberries, the cherries, but then a little overnotes of herbs. Sometimes you get a little horehound, which if you're probably under 80, you don't know what that is. But for those of us of my age, my grandmother would have horehound candies, and you never really knew if it was a medicine or a candy because they tasted so horrid. Almost like a Ricola, only worse.
What is it?
Well, horehound, it's a plant.
Oh.
But it's in small amounts. It's got this really. Do you know what tarweed is? You know when you step on tarweed, that kind of tarry smell.
Yes.
Well, horehound is kind of like that, only maybe a little bit lighter.
Okay.
And Sierra Madre always has that in their Pinots, and it's something in a very small dose that it's really interesting because it gives you a sweet component. And it's really nice on the mouth. All of my wines too. This one specifically has that long lingering finish.
Yes, it does.
And the fun thing about that is, you drink it and then you sit it down and you think, I think I need more of that. It just
Addictive.
is. It's very addictive. Yeah.
Well, I'm tasting this and I'm thinking a duck confit would go great with this wine.
Oh, truffles.
Yeah.
I've been dying for truffles recently. I don't know
Yeah.
why, but yeah.
Yeah, they have them here. I think you have to go to France or something to get truffles.
Well, you know, I saw some in San Francisco at
Really?
the Pier area. But I touched them and I thought, no, put them down.
I know we have truffle oil, and I know
Yeah.
we put some of that on one of our pizzas, and that probably go well with this.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Great. And then the last one is the Grenache. And I've seen like dark, bold,
Manly?
Yeah, manly Grenaches. This is more of the elegant style, the more feminine Grenache,
yes,
right?
Yes.
So tell us about this one.
Well, Grenache, both Grenache and Grenache Blanc, I started making only when I started this project with Will. I have total license to do what I want, but Will really wanted these two wines. So I fought him for a while just because that's who I am. But ultimately, the reason I fought him about the Grenache is I could never find a Grenache I truly liked. And you got to find one you like before you can figure out how to make it, as with a cook.
Of course, yeah. If you don't see one that you really like, why would you want to make
exactly.
it? Right?
So I just decided, I thought, well, I'm just not finding what I like, so I'm just going to take this Grenache as a grape and pretend it's Pinot Noir.
Okay.
Because I know how to do that.
Right, yeah.
So I did. I picked it early where everybody's like, oh no, Lane, wait. You got to wait until it's almost about ready to fall off the vine. It's so wrinkly. And it's like, no, I don't think so. I'm going to pick it when it just seems right, when it feels that scintillating, enjoyable flavor. And that's when I picked it.
So you do it by taste, not by bricks.
taste.
Yeah.
I always do everything by taste.
Yeah.
I check up bricks, but
Yeah.
but it's got to be taste. I take
Right.
what I do is I go from where it's green tasting right past that. So it's like it's the peak young fruit flavor.
Mm-hmm.
To me, the most exciting. I use the term scintillating a lot because that's what it tastes like to me, very scintillating. And so that's when I pick all my berries. And then I bring it in, totally 100% destem it. And here again, everybody's going, oh no, Grenache, you got to leave the stems on. So I did 1 year. With the you
Not your
don't
style.
want that one. No, it did not.
Not
come
the feminine
out.
style, no.
I'm sure it was fine for some people, but not for me.
Not for you, yeah.
Then very little oak. What this does have is just a touch of 1-year-old oak on it, and then bottled within a year. So the big thing, no Syrah, no Syrah.
Right.
There's so many, unfortunately in America, there's so many people that taste their Grenache and they've had so many Grenaches with Syrah in it, they actually think that is
That's
what
the way
it's
it's
supposed to
supposed to
taste
be,
like.
yeah.
Yeah. And it's sad. This, you can see it, it's not really dark. It's just lively.
Yeah.
It's almost tastes like a Pinot to me, except it's more tannic and more rudimentary, a little more like instead of a young woman, it's more like a girl in bobby socks, if you will.
Okay, so I guess we must have run out of film, and I asked too many questions, and Lane had too many answers, and here we are again. So let's carry on. So anyway, very nice wines.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you, you started making wine like 40 years ago or so,
I
which
don't like
doesn't
to
seem
count it,
real,
but
you
yeah,
know,
no, yeah.
you don't seem that old, and you're not.
Good save.
So, what, between making wine back then and making wine now, what has changed? How are things different?
Wow, so many things. One of my favorite examples was the first job I had at Canoctai. When we clean barrels, now you know how we clean barrels now. We've got washers, we've got forklifts. We just, it's almost no labor whatsoever. Back then, we actually put chains in the barrels, and they didn't have
Chains in the barrel.
You didn't have the racks. You didn't have barrel racks, and then you would just go back and forth like this to break up the
chains.
trays. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it
Wow.
was not easy. So as time has gone by, things have got easier, which is perfect for me because I was a lot stronger, back in my 20s. So as it's gone, as it's gone better and better, it's getting easier and easier. So also now you see a lot of people that you would never see be winemakers back then because they don't have the strength. Quite honestly, it's amazing.
People don't realize how hard of a job it is being a winemaker,
Yeah.
how much work it takes.
And how much it was a lot more before. It was a
Maybe
lot
not every
more.
month of the year, but certain times of the year, you're working 12-hour days,
It's manual labor.
It's crazy.
People don't realize the manual labor part. They think it's all gorgeous gowns.
Yeah,
that
just
go
sipping
out.
wine and
I
making
know,
wine, no
yeah.
big deal, yeah.
I could show you scars on these
Oh, it's
hands.
not like
I have
that.
bruises. I have bruises on my body right now. You can't see. But yeah, it's just like that. And as a female, it's really changed because when I first got in it, you just had to almost pretend you were a guy because if you showed any feminine qualities at all, you would be shunned. You would just be shunned, and you were kind of shunned anyway. When everybody got together, all the winemakers would get together and do tastings. Don't even think you'd get invited because they would say, "Well, if I invite you, I'd have to invite my wife." It's like,
Wow.
frack that. But that was just standard. So as time goes by, we're seen more as humans and not as only either wives or whores. And I swear to God, that's made such a huge difference in our lives. And so we're recognized as just individuals. Now I see right now the problem is we're all like a group. We're called women winemakers. You never see a group of guys called
Men winemakers, right.
That's what I'm waiting for, is when we no longer even think about, am I a girl or a boy or a man or a woman or one of the alphabet kids.
Right.
I'm just a winemaker.
Winemaker.
And that's what I'm looking for.
Fantastic. Well, let's drink to that.
Yay!
Good seeing you.